Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and today we're discussing the breaking news of Billy Napier out as Florida Gators head coach. Where did it all go wrong, and where does Florida go from here? Let's dive in. Now, to go back to the beginning, Billy Napier is actually a well sought after candidate by SEC schools for quite some time. He had a successful run as the Louisiana Cajuns, Raging Cajuns, head coach, finishing with a 40-12 record. I mean, his last two seasons, he was 10-1 and 12-1 there. So he finally jumped at the opportunity to coach at Florida. It started off okay. I mean, 6-7. You were worried about the ramifications of Dan Mullen not really recruiting at the level that the Gators expected. And he was going to have to build the cupboard back up, so to speak. But then he had a 5-7 season, and that's when the Warriors started building up. Then you managed to pull DJ Lagway, one of the top quarterback recruits in the country, to your school, and you end up having to play him as a true freshman. And even though there was a lot of turmoil happening last year, where everybody thought that it was going to be one of those seasons where he doesn't make it out alive, they had one of the hardest schedules in the country, going up against Miami, a ranked team. Then you had Tennessee, who was ranked, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. And then you finished off with Florida State, who's expected to be good last year, but obviously we know what happened there. But they finished off the season strong, and they finished 8-5. You had the losses to Georgia and Texas, but you beat LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, and you beat Tulane in the bowl game. And there was hope for this season. You brought back DJ Lagway. You have some playmakers on the outside. You recruited some new playmakers. The physical talent of that team was there. A lot of coaching staff speak highly of the talent at Florida, but unfortunately, it's the coaching out there. A 2-4 start this season did not bode well. I think the wheels fell off after the USF game. So before you even face off against the teeth of your schedule, you were losing games to teams you should have been losing against. And then the LSU game came, you lost that one. Miami game, you lost that one. You somehow beat Texas, but then you lose to A&M, and you squeak one out against Mississippi State. If Mississippi State doesn't throw that interception in the game, they're kicking a game-winning field goal as time expires. But I don't know what the coaching staff was thinking over there. They were able to escape with a win at home, but that's still not going to be good enough. The downfall to me for Billy Napier was when he did not want to give up play calling duties. You have to be a special play caller in order to be a head coach and the offensive coordinator. And it's clear that Billy Napier was not that type of offensive play caller. I mean, watching the games, if I was a Gators fan, I would be incredibly frustrated because it is borderline high school level about the plays and how they're chosen and the time frame that they are. Like, how many times have you seen on a 3rd and 4 just it might be a read option, but I don't see how it is because every time DJ just hands it off to whatever running back's in the game at the time for a halfback dive right up the middle to see if they can get those 4 yards or those 3 yards. There's not a lot of flair. Not that you need that from an offensive coordinator, but it's just a sense of the deep shots. It's just a lot of things that happen behind the line of scrimmage. It's a lot of tunnel screens or screens on the outside or dumps to the halfback. It's just not for the type of athletes that you have at Florida. It is not an efficient nor exciting, but again, more importantly, the efficient way to run an offense. I mean, this is a fan base that has been spoiled by Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. And even to an extent, Dan Mullen had some good offenses there in the way he executed game plans. I mean, he made Kyle Trask into a draftable quarterback for the NFL. Napier didn't want to be a CEO coach. He wanted to be the mastermind behind the team. But that stuff clearly was not working in the SEC. Maybe worked in the Sun Belt. Again, Louisiana's in a talent-rich state. Obviously, you're going to have Tulane or, more importantly, LSU run the state in terms of acquiring talent, but there's still enough talent to develop there, which is why he had a name for himself, which is why there was a lot of Southern schools hoping that he would take the job. And he was just waiting for the right one, and he thought Florida was the right one. Turns out it wasn't. Now, the problem with Florida is they're dumping head coaches at an alarming rate now. Once Urban Meyer left, you had Will Muschamp, and he was out after a few years. Then you bring in McElwain. He was out after a few years. Then you bring in Mullen. He was out after a few years. And now Billy Napier is going to be fired before the fourth year is over. It's starting to become a disturbing trend if you're a Gators fan that you can't keep coaches for more than 4 years. This is a very talent-rich state. This is a very proud program, a blue blood in college football, a passionate fan base, a large alumni base that leads to more, ideally, NIL funding and or contributions to the program to make sure that they stay a relevant program. And they just haven't gotten that hire right after Urban Meyer. And they have blips every once in a while. I mean, every coach that's been there except for Napier, the three that I mentioned previously, if I'm not mistaken, all had a 10-win season or better. They had double-digit win seasons, and then it just fell off from there. Napier didn't even get that. Napier's greatest claim to fame was finishing 8-5 with one of the toughest schedules in the country. That was his claim to fame. Technically a 7-5 regular season with the bowl game win. Where do the Gators go from here? They have to hit this higher. Again, it's what we've been talking about with FSU. It's what we talked about with UM in the past. We did a podcast a few years ago about the state of the Sunshine State, for lack of better words to be redundant, and how the major programs here have suffered over the past decade plus, and how it's adversely affected these schools and also where the talent is going. A lot of the talent in this state is going to Texas, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. There's no real incentive to stay home. Cristobal seems to be getting things on the right track at UM. We'll discuss the Louisville game at a later time, but you can't deny the track record of how he's recruiting and the upward trajectory of UM. Florida has been in the middle of the SEC. They've been a 500 team basically since Napier arrived. Just been a muddling franchise, a muddling school over the past few years. And we all know where Florida State stands. Ever since Jimbo's last year, they've been just wandering the wilderness of mediocrity, if you even want to call it mediocrity. Again, you could point to the 10-win season and 13-win season, but the state of football at the big three in Florida is not healthy right now. And the power brokers in Gainesville want that to change. It's the worst kept secret of who a lot of them or who a lot of outsiders believe the Gators want as their future head coach, and that's Lane Kiffin, the current head coach at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has done their best to keep Lane around. They've given him a few extensions, raises, and whatnot. But is the Florida job the job to finally pull him away from Oxford? I think it's possible. I think that, again, this is something that Lane won't say out loud, but I think he realizes that there's still a ceiling, even in the NIL and transfer portal era. There's still a ceiling at Ole Miss that's going to be hard to break through. Lane Kiffin consistently gets high quality transfer portal classes. He recruits well enough at Ole Miss. Imagine him with the resources of a Florida. And let me clarify here. I'm not saying that Ole Miss is struggling when it comes to resources. They are pouring money into this program to make sure that they stay relevant in today's age of football where, again, you can quickly fall off and it might take you a while to get back. Ole Miss understands the success that Kiffin brings to the table and how it keeps their program relevant on a national stage. And I think they're going to fight tooth and nail. We might see a Kurt Signetti type con- uh, we might see a Kurt Signetti type extension for Kiffin, where it just becomes an absurd raise, an absurd length for the contract that he can't say no. But I think, again, despite Ole Miss fighting tooth and nail to keep their head coach, I think Florida will do their best to make sure that he makes the trip down to Gainesville to become their head coach. Because in their mind, they believe with all the success that he's having at Ole Miss, compared to what Florida can offer from a talent perspective in the state of Florida, rather than trying to recruit people to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they are able to successfully recruit the state of Mississippi. There is some talent that comes from there, but nothing really compares to Florida when it comes to high school football talent. And you could still recruit at a high level in terms of the transfer portal when you're coming into Florida. That's what the power brokers and outsiders think it's a match made in heaven. Kiffin is a more mature coach than he was in the past, obviously, but he still has that knack for wanting to make headlines in a humorous way where I think he's very self aware of his reputation and he pokes fun at it while he's getting those headlines. But this is the splash that the Gators want to make. And Ole Miss is aware of not only Florida, but how many other schools are going to have job openings. And there is reports of the athletic director saying that they're trying to work on an extension to keep him there. Will Lane hold off, or will it just be one of those offers that you can't refuse? We'll see in the coming weeks, but again, I think it's going to be Kiffin or bust for the Gators. Whether it happens or not, again, we'll see if he gets that Signetti extension. If you're not able to get someone like Kiffin, I think there's currently a head coach who's waiting to get a job that may not be the splashy hire that you want. But if James Franklin goes to Florida, that could be a recipe for success as well. I know we have the notion of James Franklin doesn't win the big game, but this is also a man who made Vanderbilt into a respectable SEC opponent. This is a man who I think will learn from his mistakes at Penn State, but also everybody should realize the success he had there. This is a man who was consistently winning double-digit games there. Yes, this year was disappointing. And yes, you can understand why Penn State fans were upset at the direction of the program, but you also have to be realistic as well. The man was one throw away, one smarter choice by Drew Aller away from being in the finals, the championship game, to win it all against Ohio State last year. You won 2 playoff games. You were right there, and now he's gone. And before I get too far off track, Penn State's highly likely going to be taking a large step back next year. Now, if you compare it to this year, sure, if they go 4-8 this year, obviously it's going to be hard to take a step back from 4-8, but we've ran through this before. QB, Drew Aller, leaving. The two running backs, Singleton and Allen, leaving. The three transfer wide receivers they brought in. If they're not draft eligible, they're probably not staying there either. How many kids are you going to be losing because they wanted to play for James Franklin? Who's going to transfer out? You're not going to get certain recruits because they've already declared that they decommitted. Again, we talk about resources. Penn State, great home stadium, large alumni base, but you just couldn't crack that glass ceiling against the Oregons, Ohio States, the Michigans. James Franklin would raise the floor for Florida and get them back into being a consistent winning program. After that, do you want to go for the guy that came into the swamp that beat you and USF head coach Alex Golish? I mean, this is a guy who is already recruiting the state of Florida with USF. He's shown that he could build a winner there. And this is a guy who has that exciting offense that everybody likes to think is associated with Florida. And he learned that from Josh Heupel, who you've seen what he's done at Tennessee. If he can run that type of offense in Florida, I think the fan base would be very excited. After that, it depends on if you want to take another SEC head coach and Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz. I'm not sure if the fan base would like that. Again, will they even like Alex Golish? I mean, he did beat them, but again, you're hiring another group of five guy. Are you going to do the same thing if you look at John Summerall from Tulane? Again, this is a guy who has built Tulane into a college football playoff contender, but is in the same vein as Billy Napier leaving Louisiana to go coach at Florida. Is Summerall looking at this program and saying this isn't the right fit because of all the turmoil that's been happening over the past few coaches, and he's going to wait for another job? There's going to be plenty of job openings this year, folks. You've already got Penn State. You're probably going to have Auburn. We're discussing the Florida one right now. Florida State's a possibility. Oklahoma, if they don't finish strong, there's rumblings that Brent Venables is still on a warm seat, although I don't technically see it because I think they'll finish okay, and they'll probably have Mateer back for another year. But again, not sure about that. There's going to be a lot of openings that people don't realize. And then, again, not that these compete at that level, but it's still going after the same talent pool. You have the UCLA job. You have the Virginia Tech job. There's a lot of domino effects that are going to happen. Whoever's going to become the Penn State head coach, let's say hypothetically it's Matt Rule, there's an opening at Nebraska. Let's say it's Manny Diaz, there's an opening at Duke. Just a lot of things that can happen this offseason. And is John Summerall going to take the Florida job, or will he take another job opening in a Southern school? There's a lot of turmoil that's going to happen this offseason. I'll keep on saying that. And it seems like a lot of these schools are trying to get ahead of that. Florida's going to start trying to get those interviews in or send out those feelers before Auburn lets go of Hugh Freeze, before a decision's made at Florida State with Mike Norvell. They're contacting big money, asking how much they can put up front because, again, the issue with letting go of Billy Napier is he's going to have to get 50% of his money within 30 days. So it's a $20.4 million buyout. $10.2 million will have to be paid within 30 days of termination. So that's obviously something that they're going to have to contact certain people about just to get the funding for it. Either way, it's a call that's going to be made. It's a call that needs to be made. Again, you have in mind who you want to get. There's probably a lot of people on the Gators payroll who are willing to take that dive to make sure they can get someone like Lane Kiffin. That'll be up for today's episode, folks. Again, breaking news, Billy Napier out as Florida head coach. we'll see where the program goes from here. And I have a feeling it's going to be a busy day today on Sunday, October 19th, that we might be doing a few more of these podcasts and reactions. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to react to the Florida State debacle last night against Stanford or versus LSU or versus Louisville from Friday. I think there's going to be a lot more news today about head coaches being let go. So we're going to kind of be on standby for that and being ready to record. So you know the drill at the end of the episode, folks. You can find us on YouTube, 305 Insights. Subscribe, like the videos, throw in comments for feedback. Apple Podcasts, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and you can find us on Spotify as well. Rate us 5 stars on there as well. Thanks for listening, folks. It's always greatly appreciated. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.